Good Sunday morning. I'm Jaden Jefferson, and welcome to this week's Community Focus. Joining me right now is Dr. Brittany Jones, who is an at-large member of Toledo City Council. Thanks for joining me.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I want to first start by talking about a recent community outreach effort you announced, in which you'll kind of be going around the area holding these town hall meetings. So kind of speak to these meetings and how people can get involved.
Well, I wanted to start these meetings. They actually started the beginning of February. And I wanted to start these meetings in order to learn Toledo from a different perspective. I am a Toledo resident, but, being a resident and then also being a political official can be two different things and two different sides that you will be able to, solve issues, help out people and things of that nature. So I also wanted to just find out what are some unique challenges that each of the neighborhoods within each of the districts are facing. We're all dealing with crime. We're dealing with lack of affordable housing, dealing with food insecurity, environmental things. But what specifically should we be focusing on when it comes to these different neighborhoods? Thus, the need for these community talks. I want to make sure that I am prioritizing what the residents are looking for, what they feel that they need within their neighborhoods, and even wanting to hear some solutions that they may have heard either from just talking to different residents or even outside of the city, outside of the state, globally, whatever we can bring to Toledo and make it our own in order to just improve what has been going on here. And also just enjoy talking to people. I've been in the community for a long time. And so, again, this is just going back out into the community, learning Toledo again from a different perspective and seeing what can I do? What can we do as City Council as well?
And as someone who's covered a lot of these meetings in my time, one thing I'll often hear is people bring up a general issue. And the one thing you don't hear often is specific solutions. But have you heard from residents about some specific ideas they have in order to solve some different issues?
Not as much as I would like, but I keep pushing it with every meeting. So the last meeting I had last night, it was at Sanger Branch. So it was in District 5 area. And one of the main questions was, what would you like to see in the spot where the new Culver's is at? Because they're proposing a new restaurant. So are there other uses that you would want to see? So we've come across, some people would like to see another restaurant. But the main thing was like more green space, make it more walkable because there are people living back there. There's apartment buildings that are back there. I believe a new hotel will be built over there as well. So making it more walkable, making it just more beautified. And I think that's a really good idea. I'm a very big advocate for city parks, big advocate for green spaces and just environmental things as well. So that could be one of the things that we can push for and pursue.
So that's something that was already on your radar. Was there something that wasn't on your radar that maybe caught you off guard?
Not as much as I really didn't expect too much to catch me off guard when it came to those proposals. But it got people thinking, though. I would say that they were just looking at their faces. We're like, oh, so you're asking us, because usually they're not really consulted when things are happening at this point. So I'm glad to have offered that space. And I really plan to bring that up when we have another zoning meeting or anything of that nature, where this is what the residents are saying right now. So what can we do about it?
And obviously, with each new year, council, it passes its budget, and there are definitely hearing opportunities where residents can come in and just share some thoughts that they have on the budget and what should be a priority in that budget. Are there any opportunities during the year besides the budget where residents can actually change the way the city operates, even if the money has already been allocated?
They can definitely start attending the community meetings. The committee meetings. So the committee meetings, whether it's dealing with water quality, community and housing development, education and parks, those are open meetings for you to have public comment. Yes, there is an agenda set, but you are welcome to do that. There's also an opportunity coming up, I believe within the next 2 weeks on the 26th, that is called Democracy Day. And that is the time in which really anybody can come and speak on whatever matters have been bothering them, whether it's local, state, national, or just talking to us about what we should be doing. And then also, of course, emailing us, contacting us. The best way I would say to contact me would be to email me because I'm always out and about. And so I'm not in the office as often, but I do check my email. I have my emails. I have my aide that's also getting back to me. So I want to be connected, but reach out to us. That is the main thing. Any concerns, any reports, we want to make sure that we are serving you and just keeping a lookout on what more things that we can bring to the community.
And one thing I'll say is that people often don't realize that the more local government gets, the more likely you're going to get a response back. I mean, you may not get a
Correct.
response back from your senator, your congressional representative, but you may just get a response back from your city council person. In fact, there's a good chance you will. And so that process is
Yes.
so important. A lot of this happens at ground level, but definitely kind of speak to some of the challenges, though, in actually executing on what residents have proposed. Because maybe for some communities, it's that there's money, maybe it's the lack of
Mhm.
will. I don't think Toledo has a lack of will, but what are the challenges here?
You are correct. Toledo does not have a lack of will or a lack of passion, but the main thing here is funding. Also, strategy. What are the resources out there that we can bring together and how to execute it properly? So it's not just working for the time being, but for a long term. A lot of the projects that I've worked on and have come across, it is only for the life of a grant per se, or for a year. And then it just sort of dwindles, mainly because it's either funding or because it was just too much work, not that forward thinking, not that planning. And so a lot of that is really the biggest obstacles. So aside from funding, like I said, that we're especially having funding issues right now. But beside that, it is really that strategic thinking. What is happening beyond the year 2, 3, 4, 5? And what else can we do in order to either revitalize or just trying to bring in new ways, alternative ways in case plan A does not work? What else can we fall back on? So it's that sort of thinking that definitely needs to, I'll say, just be prioritized and be a part of all conversations.
I like how you mentioned the future because we do often look at these things 1 year at a time, one budget at a time, but forward planning is important in actually executing
Mhm.
something. And so, kind of speak to what you would say your personal priorities are going into this year for the years ahead.
Well, my personal priorities is definitely looking out first, seeing how our social service organizations are going to handle the potential of a federal freeze. So currently, right now, I am looking, well, I work at United Way, but I am working on a survey that we plan to distribute to a lot of the social service organizations within the area, just to see where they stand. What percentage are they federally funded? Have they already started cutting, whether staff or certain programs? What other plans are they trying to utilize or other ways in order to sustain themselves, just to try to get an idea of how we can help them? And then also looking at more of just the basic living situations with a lot of the social services shutting down and more money and programs being shut down. Their basic needs are being endangered at this point. So how can we be proactive when it comes to jobs and like employment, when it comes to food accessibility, food assistance, the youth, their food? I would say the most recent thing that I've heard right now is two major programs at the federal level just got slashed about $1 billion, and they supply local food as well as food for school meals. And so what does that look like? And then also looking more into, of course, alternative housing, looking into how to build and really rectify a lot of the housing here. We have aging housing stock. And then also, of course, economic development. We want to attract businesses, but the right type of businesses, because we're also looking for people to work in those businesses and contribute to the economy as it is. So it's an array of things that I really want to focus on. But those are the things that are in motion right now, along with, of course, my heart, which will be urban agriculture, making that into an economic development tool, of course, vacant land repurposing, and then, of course, local food policy as well, too.
Yeah, and definitely the federal funding issue is one that is definitely an immediate issue, but that housing issue for sure is a long-term one.
Yes.
Because we saw
Yes.
recently that the Glen over in the South Toledo area had just went up and or is going.
Hmm.
And so obviously that's one of those long-term issues. And so it seems
Right.
like city council as a body has its priorities pretty well laid out at this point.
I would say yes. And we work very well together in trying to like find solutions, trying to bring the pieces together and really just looking out and making sure that it's good for our residents and making sure that, of course, that their voices are heard. So a lot of what we're talking about, a lot of the meetings that we've been having, and of course, tied to the community talks or town halls that you've been seeing. This is the purpose. This is what's giving us the ammunition to go forward and to really put the cases out there so we can start really bringing in these new ideas too.
Well, Dr. Brittany Jones, thank you so much for being my guest on this week's Community Focus.
Thank you so much for having me. I love your show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I've been Jaden Jefferson. Have a great start to your week.